My masculine-looking friend got mistaken for a man, and when I corrected the waiter, my friends insisted I was in denial about being a lesbian. Then they used my past friendship drama against me. So, here's what happened. I went out to dinner with 5 friends. 4 girls and 1 guy. For some context, I look pretty masculine. I've got short hair, a deep voice, no makeup, and I dress in a way that's more traditionally guy-like. Sometimes people mistake me for a man, like cashiers or waiters. Normally, if it's someone I'll never see again, I don't bother correcting them. We were at this fancy restaurant when the waiter came over and called me sir. One of my friends immediately said, "Oh, she's not a man, she's just a lesbian." Everyone laughed, including the waiter, who apologized. After he left, I turned to my friend and asked, "Why did you say that?" Here's the thing, I'm not a lesbian. I've never had a boyfriend because I'm just not interested in dating anyone right now. We've even talked about male celebrities we find attractive, so I thought it was clear I'm straight. But my friend just rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, we all know you're a lesbian." That's when things got weird. The other friends chimed in, saying stuff like, "Yeah, you don't have to lie to us," and making jokes about how I dress like a lesbian or am in a glass closet. It felt like they actually believed it. One of them, Eva, even joked, "You were obviously in love with Ines." Ines used to be a friend of mine, but we had a falling out a few months ago. I trusted my friends enough to talk to them about how upset I was. I never thought they'd use it against me like that. I told them firmly that I'm not a lesbian, this isn't funny, and I was never in love with Ines. Once they saw I was serious, their tone changed. Instead of joking around, they started lecturing me about self-acceptance, being in denial, internalized homophobia, which I'm not, heteronormativity, and all that stuff. It felt like some kind of intervention. I got mad. I yelled at them for being bad friends. I said I couldn't even dress how I wanted or talk to them about my problems without them jumping to conclusions. Then I stormed out of the restaurant. Now it's the morning after, and I feel really regretful. I don't know what to say to them or what to do. Am I the a-hole here? Update 1. So, here's the thing. After everything that went down at the restaurant, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, seriously, what just happened? Did my friends really think I was hiding something from them? Or were they just messing with me and taking it too far? Either way, it left a bad taste in my mouth. The next morning, I woke up feeling this weird mix of anger and sadness. On one hand, I was pissed because they made assumptions about me without even asking. On the other hand, I felt hurt because these are people I trusted, and now it seemed like they didn't know me as well as I thought they did. So, I decided to take some time to reflect on everything before deciding how to handle it. First off, let's talk about why their comments bugged me so much. It wasn't just the fact that they called me a lesbian when I'm not, it was also how dismissive they were when I tried to clarify things. When I told them I'm straight, they acted like I was lying or in denial. That part stung more than anything else. Like, if you're gonna make fun of someone for who they are, or who you think they are, at least listen when they say otherwise. Right? But then there's the holiness thing. Ugh. Just thinking about it makes me cringe. Eva bringing her up out of nowhere? That was low. Really low. Ines and I had been friends since we were kids, but our friendship ended badly a few months ago. I opened up to my current friends about how upset I was over it, thinking they'd support me. Instead, they turned it into a joke, suggesting I had feelings for her all along. How do you even come back from something like that? It felt like they completely dismissed my emotions and used them against me. And honestly, it wasn't just about Ines. It was about trust. If I can't confide in my friends without them twisting my words or making assumptions, then what's the point of having them around? Friends are supposed to be safe spaces, right? But last night, I felt judged, misunderstood, and attacked by the very people I thought would have my back. Now, don't get me wrong. I totally get where they're coming from. They probably thought they were being funny or progressive or whatever. Maybe they wanted to push boundaries or challenge societal norms. And yeah, I guess I could have handled it differently instead of yelling and leaving. But here's the thing, humor has limits. Jokes only work if everyone involved is laughing. And I definitely wasn't laughing. Not when they were questioning my identity or using my personal struggles as punchlines. What bothers me most is how quickly they jump to conclusions. Like, did none of them ever stop to consider that maybe I'm just me? A person who likes wearing jeans and sneakers, talking about sports, or listening to rock music without needing to label myself based on those preferences? Why does liking traditionally masculine things automatically mean I must be gay? Or worse, that I'm denying it? As the day went on, I kept replaying the conversation in my head. At first, I was mad enough to cut ties with them altogether. But as I thought about it more, I realized that might be a bit extreme. These are still good people. Just misguided sometimes. Still, I knew I needed to address what happened. Ignoring it wouldn't fix anything, pretending it didn't bother me wouldn't either. So, I drafted a message to send later, hoping to clear the air without escalating things further. Here's the kicker, though. As I sat there typing, another thought crossed my mind. What if this wasn't just about them? What if this was partly about me? Hear me out. I'm not saying I deserved how they treated me. But maybe I haven't done enough to show them who I really am. Maybe I've been too quiet about certain aspects of my life, assuming they'd figure it out on their own. Or maybe I've given mixed signals without realizing it, leading them to believe things that aren't true. Could that be part of the problem? By the end of the day, I still hadn't sent the message. Part of me wondered if I should wait until I calmed down even more. Another part wondered if sending it at all was worth it. Would it help us move past this, or would it just stir up more drama? Honestly, I don't know yet. All I know is that I need to figure out how to navigate this situation without losing myself in the process. Because at the end of the day, no matter what happens with these friendships, I owe it to myself to stay true to who I am. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Still processing, still figuring things out. Guess we'll see where it goes from here. Update 2. Alright, so after stewing on everything for a while, I decided it was time to reach out. I couldn't just let the tension hang there indefinitely. Plus, I needed closure. Not for them, but for me. If nothing else, I wanted to make sure they understood how their words made me feel, even if they didn't agree with me. I sent the message late in the evening, figuring it'd give them enough time to process it without feeling ambushed. It wasn't long. Just a few sentences, but I tried to pack as much honesty into it as I could. I told them that their jokes and assumptions hurt me, and that I felt like they weren't listening when I said I'm straight. I also mentioned how using my friendship with Ines as a punchline felt disrespectful. Then I asked if we could talk about it sometime soon, because ignoring it wouldn't help either of us move forward. The next morning, one of them replied. It was Sarah, the same friend who initially called me a lesbian in front of the waiter. She apologized, saying she hadn't realized how much her comment bothered me. She admitted that she and the others had been joking around, but that they crossed a line without meaning to. She promised to bring it up with the rest of the group and see if they could all sit down together to hash things out. At first, I was skeptical. Sure, an apology is great, but actions speak louder than words. Still, I appreciated the effort. It gave me hope that maybe this whole thing wouldn't destroy our friendship completely. So, I agreed to meet up later that week, figuring it'd be better to talk face to face instead of trying to sort through everything over text. When we finally met, it was just the 4 girls. Sarah, Eva, Mia, and Claire. The guy, Alex, opted out, saying he didn't want to intrude since he hadn't really participated in the drama. Honestly, I kind of wished he'd been there, if only to balance things out a little. But whatever, I rolled with it. We started off awkwardly, which isn't surprising given the circumstances. Everyone seemed nervous, like they were walking on eggshells around me. Eventually, though, Sarah broke the ice by apologizing again. Not just for herself, but for the group as a whole. She explained that they'd talked about it afterward and realized how thoughtless they'd been. They hadn't meant to invalidate my identity or use my problems as jokes, but they admitted that's exactly what they did. Eva chimed in next, looking genuinely remorseful. She said she hadn't meant to bring up Ines, especially not in that context. She knew how sensitive the topic was for me, and she regretted making light of it. Hearing her say that actually caught me off guard. I'd expected her to double down or brush it off, but she seemed sincere. That softened my stance a bit. Mia and Claire followed suit, both expressing regret for going along with the jokes and not speaking up sooner. They admitted that they'd assumed I was okay with it because I didn't say anything at first, which made me roll my eyes internally. Assumptions are kind of the root of all evil in situations like this, aren't they? Anyway, they acknowledged that assumption was a mistake and vowed to do better moving forward. After hearing them out, I took a deep breath and shared my side. I told them how their comments made me feel misunderstood, judged, and dismissed. I reiterated that I'm straight and that I don't think my appearance or interests should dictate anyone's assumptions about my sexuality. I also brought up how using my friendship with Ines as fodder for jokes felt like a betrayal of trust. By the end, I think they got it. Or at least, they seemed to. Things didn't magically go back to normal right away. There was still some lingering tension, and conversations felt slightly more guarded than usual. But over the following weeks, we gradually eased back into our usual dynamic. They stopped making jokes about my sexuality altogether, which was refreshing. And when we did talk about Ines, they approached the subject with more sensitivity, asking how I was doing instead of throwing out snarky remarks. Looking back, I realized this whole situation taught me a lot. Not just about friendships, but about communication and boundaries. For one, I learned that it's okay to call people out when they cross those boundaries, even if it's uncomfortable. Ignoring issues won't make them disappear. Addressing them might not always fix everything, but it's usually worth the attempt. I also realized that sometimes people mess up. Not because they're bad friends, but because they're human. And humans are flawed. Of course, not every friendship can survive something like this. Ours did, but I know that's not always the case. Part of me wonders if we dodged a bullet, or if we're just lucky. Either way, I'm glad we worked through it, even if it took some effort from both sides. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everything's perfect. There are still moments where I catch myself second-guessing whether they truly understand or if they're just pretending to for the sake of peace. But overall, I feel like we've come out stronger on the other side. Or at least, I have. And honestly, that's all I can ask for. Update 3. So, it's been a few weeks since our little heart-to-heart, and things are okay. Not perfect, but okay. The group dynamic has definitely shifted, and while some parts of it feel better, others still carry this weird weight that neither of us seems ready to fully unpack yet. For starters, the jokes have stopped. Completely. Like, not just the ones about my sexuality or Ines, but any kind of joke that could potentially step into sensitive territory. It's almost like they're walking on eggshells around me now, which is its own form of awkwardness. On one hand, I appreciate the effort. They're clearly trying to be more mindful. On the other hand, it feels a little stifling, like we've all agreed to tiptoe around certain topics instead of addressing them head-on. But hey, baby steps, right? We've also started talking more openly about boundaries. Not in some formal, sit-down meeting kind of way, but casually, as things come up. For example, when Mia made a comment about someone's outfit the other day, Sarah quickly reminded her that not everyone likes having their appearance critiqued. That led to a short conversation about how sometimes even well-meaning comments can make people uncomfortable. It wasn't a big deal, but moments like that show me they're actually putting thought into how they interact with each other. And with me. Eva, surprisingly, has been one of the most changed. She used to be the queen of sarcasm and snarky remarks, but now she seems more aware of how her words land. She apologized again recently, saying she hadn't realized how much her joke about Ines had hurt me until after the fact. Honestly, hearing her say that felt good. Not because I needed validation, but because it showed she was reflecting on her actions. That's progress, even if it's slow. As for me, I've been thinking a lot about my role in all this. I mean, yeah, they crossed lines, but maybe I could have communicated my feelings earlier instead of letting everything boil over. Maybe I shouldn't have let their assumptions slide for so long, assuming they'd figure it out eventually. Or maybe I should have been clearer about what I wanted from the friendship. Support without judgment, understanding without assumptions. Either way, I've learned that being upfront about your needs is important, even if it's uncomfortable. The thing is, I don't think any of us will ever forget what happened. It's not something you can erase or gloss over completely. But I do think we've grown from it. We've become more thoughtful, more considerate, and maybe even a little wiser. And while the friendship might never go back to exactly how it was before, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes change is necessary, even if it's hard. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everything's rainbows and sunshine. There are still moments where I catch myself wondering if they really get it, or if they're just pretending to for the sake of keeping the peace. And there are times when I wonder if I'm holding on to resentment without realizing it. But overall, I feel like we're moving forward, however slowly. In the end, I guess that's all you can ask for. Relationships aren't static. They evolve, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully. This whole experience reminded me that friendships require work, compromise, and honesty. They're worth fighting for, but only if both sides are willing to put in the effort. And right now, I think we're doing just that.